everyone. Today we are going to discuss about pure monopoly. We've already discussed about perfect competition and pure competition, so I'm leaving all this. Straight away coming to this slide, we are going to make a distinction between perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. Monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. So, what is the basic difference between these four kinds of market? The number one thing that we are going to discuss is the number of the firms. In the case of the perfect competition, we see that the number of the firms under the perfect competition are many. Means that under the perfect competition, we see many firms and the industries are there. Many firms are there, and combinedly they form an industry. Then monopolistic competition, the condition is the same, but in the case of oligopoly, we say there are few sellers in the market. The firms are very few, and everybody, every seller, every manufacturer has a complete knowledge about their competitors. And in the monopoly, you all know that it is a system where we have only one seller, and he is monopolistic, and everything we see around him in the market. Now next we come to the characteristics, that is a type of a product. In a perfect competition, we see a homogeneous product that are identical in character. In the monopolistic competition, they are differentiated. The difference between the identical product and the differentiated product is only this, that identical product is like, if we talk about the the soaps in the market, if you even talk about a Lux, if you talk about the Lifebuoy, all these products are there almost having the same kind of a characteristics and all. So we say they are identical, but in the monopolistic competition, what is being done, they have been differentiated on the basis of their packaging, on the basis of their colors, on the basis of their shapes. Then we come to the oligopoly market. There we find both the identical and the differentiated product. This we have already discussed what is meant by identical and differentiation. Differentiated product. A differentiation in the product is made by the way of its color, shape, or its packaging style. The delivery system, in some case, on the basis of all this, differentiation is being made into the market. And then the monopoly is unique seller because he do not have any substitute, and whatever he is selling, he is a unique for that. Now we come to the barriers to the entry and the exit in the market. Means how many can the new suppliers join the market or not. So if we see in the perfect competition, there is no barriers. Anybody in the market can anytime come and join the industry as a firm, and they can anytime leave the market. In the monopolistic competition, this is there, but there is a barrier, but it is very low. In a oligopoly market, a new entrant, coming of a new entrant in the market is completely restricted. They do not, it's very high. They do not allow any new entrant to come into the market and join them, because they want to retain their profit. And that is why what these people do, they form an organization. You must have heard about OPEC, that is Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. This is an oligopolistic organization. What they do is they form their own organization, so that this organization is responsible for regulating this oligopoly market, and it becomes like a head to the market. Now we come to the monopoly. Then the entry is blocked. Under the monopoly, they do not allow any other person to come and enter into a market and share the profits. They either in the way of having a copyright, or even in the way of getting a patent for a particular market, or any other illegal kind of a restriction, they block the entry to the market. Now if we talk about the price takers and the makers, under the perfect competition, the firms are the price taker, we have already discussed, and the industry is a price maker. In the monopolistic market, again, the firms are the price takers. Oligopoly, the firms are the price makers. They define their own prices and all. But to be into the market, they have to listen to this organization, who is the head of this organization. Otherwise, if they keep their prices out, then what happens? And they may be thrown away from the market. And in the monopoly, they need not to follow anybody. They themselves are the price makers. Now, the examples for the perfect competition, it can be any rice company or a wheat manufacturing company or like this, right? And in the case of a monopolistic competition, hairdresser and the restaurants, all these things comes. Then we come to the oligopoly market. It can be banking, supermarkets, or you can take the example of the airlines. Airlines can be one other airlines. Airlines can be then examples for the oligopoly. Then we come to the monopoly market. Letter of delivery, I don't think now this is applicable. You can say a tap market. Jal Nigam अकेला वहाँ पर है. Railways. Railways are the system where the government of India has its monopoly on this. So we see this kind of a difference between the three. Now we talk about what is monopoly. So we all know that the monopoly is a single seller. Now, what are the assumptions to the monopoly model? Is basically number one, we say that we have a single seller. There is no substitute. No substitute for the product is available. So that is what is a monopoly. That is why he is himself responsible for the no close substitute is another thing that we are going to decide. I told you that there is a single seller. He do not have any competition. There is no perfect substitute available in the market. That is why he is a price giver. He can charge. He can charge any price from the market, from the consumers. I mean consumers, because he is a single seller. ठीक है, तो हम लोग ये बात है. दूसरा, what do we say in the pure moly? There is a entry blocked in the market. अच्छा, blocked in the entry in the market का क्या मतलब है कि कोई वो बाउंड्री लगा देते हैं या कुछ कर देते हैं? No, it is legal restrictions. They, by getting a patent or a copyright or any kind of other restriction that they do through the government, and then these people are not allowed to enter into the market. Non-price competition है monopoly में. Why non-price competition? Because it's a single seller and no other person is going to decide on the price. It is a price. He is a price giver. He himself is going to. The monopoly में monopoly themselves are going to decide on the price, going to decide on the price, right? And in this condition, what happened, that there is no price competition. So whatever is being decided, it is being decided by the monopoly, because they are a single seller and no other close substitute was there. Now, demand curve under the monopoly, what do we see? That there is no difference, like in the perfect competition, what we see, that there is a difference between a firm and industry. Firms together define an industry. In this case, when we talk about the monopoly, the firm is the industry and there is the faces of and firm itself is the industry. There is no difference. First of all, there is no difference between firm and industry. We say this. So in a monopoly, we see that there is no difference between a firm and industry, and firm itself is an industry because it's a single seller. Now, under the monopoly, if we talk about a demand curve, the firm is an industry and therefore faces a downward sloping demand curve. So this curve is a downward sloping demand curve that we see. This is a demand curve, and this is known as a marginal revenue curve. If the firm want to sell, it must be lower in the price. Therefore, the marginal revenue is also downward sloping price. Marginal revenue is also downward sloping. So what do we see? So demand curve, and this is MR and this is MC. Now we know under the competition, we know the point of equilibrium is the profit maximization rule, where MC is equal to MR. The point where the marginal revenue curve intersect the marginal cost, a significant point where these both are equal. So further, the point on the demand curve associated with where MR is equal to Q. So what we see, that Now what is this? This curve is a MR curve. This is MR curve, and this is a demand curve. Now we see that it is where MR is equal to Q is this point. So this is what now we say that this is a demand curve, and this is what is going to decide upon this, decide upon the marginal revenue. So what do we see? So what we see, MR is equal to Q is at this point, the quantity is equal to MR, marginal revenue at this point, and that is a unit price. To the left down curve, elastic range of, so that the right is in elastic range. Now what we see, this is an inelastic range and this is a elastic range, right? What we are seeing that as we are going upward, what we are seeing, the demand curve and the marginal revenue, there is a less difference. It is as we are moving upward, whereas in this case, as we are moving down, we are seeing a decrease, right? This is what we are seeing. So point of equilibrium is where MC is equal to MR. So demand curve is going to give you the marginal cost, and this is your marginal revenue. So basically, where the point of equilibrium under this is the point where MR is equal to Q, and this is the point of equilibrium. Further we decide on this. So what we see is understanding pure competition and economic profit, how they decide it. Now, a monopolistic can make an economic profit. An economic profit is that margin above average cost. We know this. So, average cost should be above the, average cost, average revenue should be above the average cost. This should be the condition for defining the profits, right? So what we say, an economic profit is that margin that is above the cost, which is excess the cost, which is necessary to have a cost cover under the bestness alternative, and this is the condition to get the profit also. In a perfect competition, we saw that there is an economic profit that is a signal to others. Whenever there is an economic profit, I told you in our earlier chapter in a perfect competition, when there is an economic profit under the perfect competition, when we say perfect competition, so when there is a profit, what happens, that the other people are motivated towards entering into the market. We see that other also entering into the market. What happens then? The supply increases. When other firms are entering into the market, it responds the supply increase. And where there is a supply increase, what will happen? The demand is less than supply. Then what happens? The prices goes down, right? We know this. So unlike in the case of a perfect competition, in a monopoly competition, there is a restriction for an entry into the the firms by the companies through the different barriers that we have already discussed. So under the perfect competition, since there is no barrier, so that is why what happens, that the supply curve increases and it becomes economic profit turns into economic loss. But under the monopoly, what happened? There is an objection under the monopoly and there is a closed entry. So in a monopolist making an economic profit can do as long as the cost revenue structure permit. That under monopoly, what happens? Under monopoly, the condition changes. That as long as the marginal revenue is above the marginal cost, the firm will earn profit, which is not in the case of perfect competition. Why? Because new people enter into the market and their marginal revenue goes down, right? As long as, so the self-correcting advantage is there under the perfect are lost, and the due to under the perfect competition, self-correcting advantages are lost because due to there is no barrier into the entry of a new entrants. On the other hand, if you talk about the monopoly, since there is a restriction, new people cannot come into the market, then what happens, that the curve remains the same. So understanding economic profit under the under the monopoly. So what we see, that this is what? This is MR, this is a demand curve. This curve is a ATC. ATC is going to decide us the cost. ATC is going to give us a cost. And what is MC is equal to marginal cost? Marginal cost. So we know marginal cost should be equal to marginal revenue. What is the, this is the point where MC is equal to MR. So this is an equilibrium point. So it will go to the quantity, it will go to the demand curve. So this is the demand into the market. This is the demand into the market. Now demand is going to decide on the price. So this becomes price also. So in this condition, what we see that OP is a price. This is a price, and OQE is a quantity demanded into the market, quantity in the market. So at OQE prices, this is a price. Now what is the cost? Now this represents the cost. So what we see, this cost is, if we extend this, what we see that this is interacting this, this particular equilibrium is extended to the cost point, and we see this is the point where the cost is interacting with the revenue curves, right? So what we see that this is a cost. So now what is the thing is, OC is less than OP. Yani the prices are greater than the cost, and the difference between OC and OP is CP. So CP becomes your profit. So this is your economic profit, right? So in this diagram, what we see that this is the profit and this is the quantity, and MC is equal to MR is a curve where we decide on the profit. I hope this is very clear to all of you. The above diagram shows the economic profit that can be maintained in a long run because the barriers of the entry into the industry. The monopolistic producers where MC is equal to MR, this we have already done. The monopolist produce where MC is equal to M intersect the MR curve, but the price change charge is all the market will bear. That is the price on the demand curve that is immediately above the interaction of the MC is equal to MR. The triangle mapped out ATC, मैंने आपको ये सारा कुछ बता दिया. यहाँ पे हमारा ट्रायंगल बन गया. ये जो पॉइंट है ये आपको यहाँ पे इंटरसेक्ट कर रहा है, ये आपको कॉस्ट बता रहा है और ये आपका प्राइस है. सिंस द प्राइसेस आर अबव द कॉस्ट, द फर्म इज मेकिंग इकोनॉमिक प्रॉफिट. Now the condition, in the same condition, what is the condition where the firm is unable to make the economic profit but get the loss? So in this condition, you can see, we will repeat that this is marginal revenue, this is the demand curve, this is average variable cost, average total cost, right? And this is marginal cost. Now MC is equal to MR is at this point. So this becomes your equilibrium. OQE is your quantity, right? And MC is equal to MR. We will go till this point and we will see what is the price. So we see variable cost तो मिलना ही चाहिए, ठीक है? Variable cost मिलना ही चाहिए. So we see what is the price. So it gives you the price like this. Now this is this is average variable cost and this is ATC, right? This is ATC. Now what we see, yes, now what we see here in this point, what we are seeing, sorry, I'll just come to this point. I have just, okay. Now what we see here is this is your average total cost curve, right? And this is the demand curve, sorry. ये demand curve है आपका, right? And this is average total cost curve. This becomes your cost. This is average total cost. This becomes your cost, and demand curve, it becomes your price. So what we see that OC is above OP. That means the cost is above the price. When the cost is above the price, the firm is going to make an economic loss, right? The monopolist firm is making a loss. The ATC is about the demand curve. We know the ATC is about the demand curve. We know this. It is about the demand curve. Now, ये आपका ये गलत लिखा हुआ था. If I just do it again for you, I'll just do. right? Just a minute. I'll just do this with you again. You will understand this. Just a minute. What we are going to do is we are going to understand this diagram again. Now coming back to this diagram, what we see is what we see is what we see is that there are different curves. Now, basically this is not variable cost, this is average total cost, right? And this is marginal cost. Now I told you that it is a condition where MC is equal to MR. This is MR, and what is marginal cost? This is a marginal cost curve. So both of them are intersecting at this point. So this becomes your quantity into the market, OQE, that becomes the quantity, and we extend this till the demand curve. So till the demand curve, this become our price in the market. This becomes our price, and the average total cost gives us the cost. So the extension of this to the average total cost curve, we get this, and this become your cost. Now this point becomes the cost. Now if we say C stands for cost, P stands for price, then what we see, OP is a price in the market that you are getting, OC is a cost. So what we see, OC is above the price, OP. That means cost is greater than price. So here we are incurring this much of. So cost and price का जो difference है वो इतना है, and we are incurring this much of loss. So this is how under the monopoly, even in the monopoly, if your cost goes up and the firm is even again not able to meet with this cost, they are unable to meet the variable cost, and the cost, your cost is above, still below the demand, as long as we remember from the discussion of the chapter ABC, in other case what we see that this may be extended और आगे जाके हम एवरेज वेरिएबल कॉस्ट भी उसकी नहीं चुका पाएंगे, जैसे कि हमने पहले we discussed in the case of the perfect competition. So basically this is all about this. We say that average variable cost, the cost is above the price, and since OC is above the OP, so the firm is incurring losses. Okay, this is all about the monopoly. I hope I'm clear. Thank you very much.